and welcome to another episode of the Marco Podcast,
a show dedicated to the realness of organization and entrepreneurship. This space was created for every woman who needs motivation or inspiration to get organized and to keep going after her dream. I'm your host, Angel J. Sit back and prepare for valuable tips, resources, laugh, and much more. If this is your first time here, welcome and thanks for joining. If you've been hanging around for a while, welcome back, and I hope you brought a friend. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. I don't think it does either, Tracey. So, I can hope, but my standards aren't very high for it. So I go with it. I don't even dress for the weather anymore. It's just whatever I feel like putting on that day. That's what I'm going to go with. Yep. So is there anything else you'd like to share before we get started?
No, I'm just really excited to chat.
Okay, awesome. I'm excited to chat with you. So, Tracey, how long have you been an entrepreneur and how did you get started?
I've been an entrepreneur forever. It's been about this new iteration of what I do, the social media stuff. I've been doing that for about 13 years.
Okay.
And it started by accident. I think that happens a lot, right?
It does. Yeah, I've been hearing that a lot lately.
Yeah, you find you're good at something, you try it out, and you're like, wait a minute, I can make money doing this. And that was part of my journey in the social media content creator sphere. I've had my own business for a really long time. We could solve most of the world's problems.
I agree that either a bunch of entrepreneurs or a bunch of women. Sorry to all my men that are listening to this.
No, I agree.
But it's the truth. So what did you start off doing in the entrepreneur world, and then how did you shift over to social media?
Well, I sold Avon for like 18 years.
Okay, welcome to the MLM
yes.
group. Yes.
Yeah, well, so not only did I sell Avon, but I was also a corporate trainer for them. So for a couple of years, I got to travel all over the country and teach other representatives how to sell consultatively, and got out of that because they kept undercutting our profit opportunities.
Gotcha.
And so the Avon of today, I don't even recognize because they're trying to be all things to all people, and that's a whole nother story.
Right. Yeah, you can't be all things to
I like it when people stay in their lane.
Yes. Yes, that is very important. I agree with you on that. So how did you go from Avon to social media content?
It was literally accidental. I had a friend she ran a cooking school, an Italian cooking school. Ooh. And I offered to start helping her, and then discovered I was really good at it. And because I was a corporate trainer for Avon, I also started teaching workshops, which I love a microphone. So, so I started teaching workshops, and it just kind of went from there. It started accidentally, and then I got a lot more intentional about it. And I mean, there have been some shifts. In 2017, I opened a co-working space, which is now closed. But I thought that co-working would kind of take over, and it did not.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it didn't. I know there's a couple of areas around here where I live at. I wonder if COVID had anything to do with it, or Yeah.
But I think for me, the other thing was I cannot handle when brilliant people hide out and don't share how amazing they are. And so I keep seeing that now, and it drives me bonkers. So I'm like, there's somebody I reached out to last year and said, no, really, can I do your social media for you? Because you're amazing and no one knows you.
Oh, wow.
Because your content is vanilla. You're not vanilla. Let's do something fun that your people will love. Those are the best, because if I can reach out and say, ooh, I really want, can you please just hand it over to me?
Right. Yeah. And that's amazing. That shows that you're really passionate about what it is that you do, and that you want to see people, that you actually want to see people grow and thrive.
I do, because it goes back to that changing the world thing, right? One, you need money to change the world. I mean, that's part of it. But if our businesses are thriving, then we will have the resources, whether it's time or money, to make more of the difference we want to make in the world.
Right. And I love that. And that just goes back to show that, that you're really in it for your why, like your why you started. Like, of course, like you said, business needs money. Like, you started the business to make money, but your only reason for starting the business or being in the business can't just be about money. And so you doing that shows that, you have a bigger why than just the money. Okay, cool. So how can...
Oh my gosh. So here's the thing. Most business owners ooze content every time they speak, but they don't see it that way, right? Every time you get on the phone with someone, every time you're talking to them about your business, that's content. And it's the blog post you did. It's the guesting on podcasts that you do. It's all of those things. It's content that you can rejigger, you can change up the word and use it over and over and over again. We're in an attention economy and no one is paying close enough attention to know, like, wait, didn't Tracey share that 6 months ago? Nobody knows. Like, nobody can remember what they ate for breakfast, let alone what they read in some random Instagram post 6 months ago.
6 months ago. Okay. I ran into that because today I was trying to like post a tip on my Instagram page and I was like, I haven't posted any tips in a while. And I was like, did I already post this one? So I'm like scrolling back through to see if I posted it or not. I was like, I don't want to post the same thing over again.
Well, I have a podcast too. I'm on a hiatus.
Okay.
But I do the same thing with the podcast. It's like, wait, did I talk about this already?
Yes. I say that a lot because I'm like, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you all or not, but if I have, I apologize, but I am not going back through all those episodes to try to listen again to see if I said it or not.
Well, and the thing is that stories are what sticks, right? And so if you think about even famous people who have stories, like let's say Brene Brown, she tells the same stories over and over and over and over again, but it helps us remember.
That's
so true. Us saying the same things over and over again, so let me give you an example.
Okay.
I had a co-working space. We did a grand opening or a grand reopening because we expanded. And there was a gal that I had been friends with in real life and on Facebook for years. I owned the co-working space. I owned it. She comes to the party and she's like, oh, how are you affiliated with this? And I'm like, so it's one of those things that just reminds me that as a business owner, I feel like I'm talking about my business all the time.
Right.
But from the outside perspective, I'm not. So now I say, look, you have to talk about yourself until it gets uncomfortable. And then you need to keep talking about yourself. It's the only way so those stories, even if you're repeating them and you're like, oh, I heard her say that before, but now I get it.
Okay, now it's kind of sticking. Now it's sticking in my mind. So,
yeah.
Okay. So is it for repurposing content? Is it just for like blog post or Instagram post or podcast, or can you use it for everything?
Everything. It's iffy.
Preaching to the choir here. I get it. I completely get it. Nope.
But when I'm really on top of things, then I have a plan. Like, okay, I have 25 graphics. So if every Tuesday I can just rotate through those 25 and then start over again and talk about my book. Because when I talk about my book, people buy it. But if I don't talk about my book, magic, nobody buys it. But you could do the same thing with recommendations and recommendations, testimonials, the testimonials you have on your podcast, making graphics for each of the people who've said nice things about your podcast. It's another way to talk about what you do without just saying, hey, look at me, because it's someone else saying it.
Right.
That's just one example, but even blog posts, you can just change up the words, or taking the blog posts and finding different ways to repurpose them on other platforms.
Okay. No, that makes sense because I've actually done that with the with my reviews from my podcast. I put them on my Instagram. I think I've done them on like my LinkedIn and my Facebook page that I recently created. And then I also have them like on my website so that people can see, you know, this is what people are saying. And then I've also started reading them at like the end of podcast episodes as well.
Nice.
For maybe about a month or two. I probably have like between 6 and 8 blog posts. And then it got to be a lot because I was trying to do everything. My podcast was like still new, and I'm like, okay, I need to kind of focus. And as I was sitting here, as I said, everyone, we're recording 2023. So as I was sitting here trying to like think of some content and stuff and things that I want to talk about on my podcast for 2024, it keeps getting pointed out to me that I don't talk about my own business enough on my podcast. So I'm like, okay, I need to start making sure that I incorporate episodes about that. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? And then it's like a light bulb went off. I was like, oh, I have those blog posts that I wrote. I can use those and turn those into episodes. And I'm like, I'm like, Angel, you have like 6 to 8 episodes already written. You just need to repurpose those and go with it.
And you can do the reverse too. So
okay, yeah.
You can take your solo podcasts and turn those into blog posts. So because it was never going to make it to the top of my list.
Right.
But I'm also not going to sit and write a blog. So I may as well take that content and turn it into a blog. Right. And in fact, she's like, do you want to edit them before I post them? And at first I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm like, no, I don't. Just do it. Because I will be the hang up, right? I will be the stopper of all the good things if I get in my own way.
I was like, okay. I was like, maybe one day I'll get to that. But like you said, then it's just the editing. And I get tired of editing podcasts sometimes. Like, I'm like, I am so tired. I'm just like, one time I was like, I'm just going to put this podcast out unedited. And there was like a long gap or something. And I was like, well, at least let me cut this gap out. And then I went to go listen to it. And I'm like, oh, well, I was coughing right here. And I was doing this. I was like, yes, I do need to go ahead and edit that. So, but I definitely like the idea of taking stuff and like repurposing it because it's just things that you don't necessarily think about repurposing or that you can use. So how do you beat the algorithm? I hate the algorithm. I hate
the algorithm too.
I wrote a blog post about it.
I'll have to go find that. So honestly, my tip around beating the algorithm is focusing on relationships. If you are looking at building relationships and creating a community as you're writing your content, the algorithm doesn't play as much into the equation because I think trying to stay ahead of the algorithm is a lose-lose proposition. Yes. Oh, they changed. So now that means I have to do XYZ to get the same reach. And as entrepreneurs, I think a lot of times what keeps entrepreneurs stuck in mediocrity is trying to do all the things. And so it's why I don't do reels. I don't do stories. Because it's so much more work and it's really you're just trying to stay ahead of the algorithm, and I just don't I don't have the capacity to do that. Let me just be myself, put stuff out, and the right people will find me. I think it's, you want to stay relevant. You want to have clicks and likes and all that jazz, and you can get those. And the other thing to remember is there's a lot of people on social media who just lurk.
Thank you.
They're never going to comment. They're never going to react, but they're reading it because maybe you talk to them and they'll say, oh, I love that thing you shared about blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And not only are there lurkers, a nicer way to say would be listeners, but Google's also listening to everything.
Right.
So everything you do on social media, other benefits besides whether so-and-so clicked like on it.
I agree with you. Like, you took the words right out of my mouth. When I first started on social media, everything about me, I'm like, oh, I didn't get any likes on this. Nobody paid attention. Oh, I went live. Like, nobody watched it. But then, like you said, and I've said this before on the show, so many times people have came up to me and they're like, oh, that was really cool what you did with X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, how did you know that? And they're like, oh, I saw your post on Facebook or I saw your post on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, okay. So people are seeing this, they are paying attention to it. They're just, like you said, they're just listening or looking and not responding to it. And I've also said this before, I would rather have, 500 listeners or $500 going into my business account than to have 500 likes on a post, because majority of the time those likes and those comments on posts, that's not turning into anything. That's just somebody that's like, oh, cool, that was nice, I like that. So I would rather have someone that's really interested in it. And I'm with you, I don't do reels. Like, someone was like, oh, you should be doing reels, and I was like, okay. And I did like 1, maybe 2 reels, and I was like, this is too much. I don't have the time to take these little snippets of videos and then put them in. And I was like, I don't have time to do that. The only time that I do stories, I don't actually create a story per se. It's just when I post a picture, I'll share it to my story, and like, that's about it. But other than that, I'm not creating separate stories. I'm not creating separate reels. Like I said, I don't have the capacity for it. I don't have time for it. And I know that I will get frustrated and annoyed with like trying to do it. And like I said, the algorithm changes all the time. 1 minute it's, oh, you have to use at least 20 hashtags. Now it's, oh, you have to use, hashtags between 8 and 10 words. And you have to, and it's like, it changes every day, and you will drive yourself insane trying to keep up with that and trying to figure out. So, and even when it tells you like the times that you're supposed to post, well, everybody's posting at that time. So now I'm still getting lost in your feed either way. I post when I want to, and I post what I feel like posting. So,
well, and the other thing that I like to remind people is, so reels is a perfect example. So reels, 1, they take time. 2, they disappear every day, which means you have to be creating more reels. Now, if you remember, or I try to remind people, we are the product. So if Instagram says, well, you have to create reels to get engagement, and then I'm spending tons more time on the platform, that's now, and I get we're the commodity everywhere, but I don't need to feed.
right.
It's actually interesting because I spend less time on social media now than I ever have in my life.
Me too.
Mostly because I'm kind of bored. Like, I get it, and there's certain people I love checking in on, and groups I like checking in on, but I don't need 100 posts that say Happy Thanksgiving.
I don't. I'm with you. Like you said, I like on Facebook, I have my like you said, I don't care, because most of the time it's showing me something that happened 10 days ago, and I'm like, well, that's no longer relevant. I don't care about that. Or it's the latest. I don't care. I just honestly, I don't care.
I'm with you.
Yeah, at all.
Like, so. Tell me something real. Like, share something real. Yes. That's going to connect me with you.
I agree. Like, give me that trust factor.
And sometimes I post ridiculous things too. So I mean, I get it. There's a time and there's a time for everything.
Yeah.
But
I don't have time for the algorithm.
No.
So you brought up something that I wanted to touch back on, and it was when we were talking about, the algorithm and like building like how can entrepreneurs and small businesses create authentic community?
I think it's really about showing up as who you are. I think there's so many people there's a lot of BS out there in online business land. And as a result, there's these fake, curated, perfect feeds. And that's not attractive to anyone. I mean, well, maybe it's attractive to some people. Those times when you can be real, when you can just be honest, and you're having a conversation. Like, to me, every click is an opportunity to have a conversation.
Okay.
I ask a question and people respond. Like, one of the biggest things business owners can do is reply to their response.
Yes.
It's not hard, but so many companies, business owners don't do it.
Right.
And so it's really just about showing up and responding and, being human, right?
Okay.
Like, not treating people like a wallet. I think there's so much opportunity because there are so many people out there just selling.
Right.
That when you can show up just a little bit differently, there's so much opportunity for you.
Right. Because you stand out, like you You stand out amongst everyone else. And it's like, okay, well, that person took the time to respond to me or to interact with me or whatever the case may be. And they're going to remember that. And, for a lot of people, if me and you are both selling the same thing or we both have the same thing and you respond back to them and I don't, well, they're going to remember that. Okay, well, Tracey responded back to me. Tracey's more personable, so they remember things like that. And that's so important. And that's one of the things that I like talk about in my business with public relations is that like you are your brand, you are your company. And like you said, the way you treat people matters. And people may not say anything, but people are always going to remember how you treated them, always.
Well, and telling people they donated 100,000. First of all, next time donate the whole $1 million.
Right. And then don't tell anybody.
You don't need to tell anybody. If it's a stunt, people can see right through that.
Right. How was that? Yeah. That's not going to make me run out and be like, oh, okay, let me go give you my money so that you can go tell more people, spend more money on telling people what good you did in the community. So no, it defeats the purpose there, like it doesn't make sense. So as the kids say today, make it make sense. Make it make sense, please. I don't understand. Well, Tracey, thank you so much. I have enjoyed this conversation. And before you go, I know you said that you have a podcast and it's on hiatus, but can you tell us about it and when it'll be coming back?
Yes. Okay. I'm putting my stake in the ground because it'll be back in January.
Okay.
It's called Ignite Your Champions. And it's, I might even rebrand it. I don't know, but it's little bite-sized marketing tips. I don't like to listen to long business podcasts. I like shorter ones, which is something I like about yours because they're shorter. And so they're all like 10 minutes or less.
Okay.
With practical marketing tips. I don't know any other way to be except practical. Plus, great. Can you take an action? Fantastic. And one action.
Okay.
Don't give me a list of 20 things I need to do.
Right. One at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will definitely be on the lookout for that. And is there anything else, any other tips that you would like to share or anything else you'd like to tell us today?
Just be kind to yourself. I think that business owners can be so hard on themselves. I didn't do this right. It's not like we ever get to a point where we arrive. We're always changing. And if we can just be kinder to ourselves, I think we'll all get a lot further, faster.
I love that. Thank you so much, Tracey. And how can everyone connect with you or find you?
Well, my favorite places to play are LinkedIn and Facebook. I have an Instagram. I don't love it. It's just not my favorite platform. Tracey, as long as you get the EY, you can find me my Tracey with an EY.
Okay, awesome. And I will make sure to link those into the show notes as well. So Tracey, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Modco Podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something from it. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, colleague, or anyone you think will enjoy it. Make sure you hit the follow or subscribe button. And if you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcasting app. That helps others to find us and gets us listed in other show recommendations. So you all know that I run on coffee, and so does the show. If you'd like to buy us a coffee, you can do so by clicking on the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, and chat soon.